Welcome back to Reddit Story Time. Today we have 4 incredible stories. Let's dive right in.
Story number 1. Am I the asshole for banning my friend's kids from our lake house after they almost drowned? Here's a story about a favor that nearly ended in tragedy. A woman and her husband own a lake house, and one day a friend of the husband's called with a request. Could her kids come up and do some fishing? The owners said sure. The plan was simple. The friend would come along, watch her own children, and the kids would bring their own gear. That is not what happened. She dropped the kids off and drove away. And she didn't just leave her own sons, she also dropped off one of their friends, a kid the family had never met in their lives. Now picture the scene: unsupervised children alone at a lake house. The kids forgot their fishing equipment, so they helped themselves to the husband's rods and gear. Then they took the kayak out without permission, without life vests apparently, and without a single adult on the property. They paddled to the middle of the lake, and they flipped it. They nearly drowned out there, and they lost every piece of the husband's fishing equipment to the bottom of the lake. The only reason this story isn't a tragedy is that the neighbors spotted them and pulled the kids out of the water. When the mother was finally confronted, did she apologize? No. She blamed the friend of her kid. Her exact words were that she knows her son, so clearly it must have been the other child's influence. So the owner called her furious and laid down the law. The mother, the kids, her husband, even their pets banned from the property. And she demanded reimbursement for the ruined gear. And now, the friend is acting like the owner is the one being irrational. Let's be clear about something. When someone does you a favor, the absolute minimum is showing up to supervise your own children around open water. This wasn't a boundary issue. This was a safety catastrophe 1 minute away from a phone call no parent ever wants to make. The verdict here is easy, not the asshole. Some bans aren't petty. They are necessary.
And the verdict, not the asshole. Story number 2, am I the asshole for pushing my sister-in-law to sell her $60,000 engagement ring? This one is a genuine dilemma, and the comments section was genuinely split, so you decide. A man's brother runs a business that is collapsing. The financial situation is so bad that he, his wife, and their 3 kids, all under the age of 3 by the way. 3 kids under 3 are trapped in an $8,500 per month lease until early next year. Here's the part that sets up everything. The extended family has banded together and given this couple over $150,000 to keep them afloat. Our storyteller himself lent them money, and now the family has hit a wall. Nobody is eager to hand over more. But there's an asset sitting in plain sight, the sister-in-law's engagement ring, which cost around $60,000. So the storyteller did the math out loud. You're accepting massive family support while holding a luxury item worth tens of thousands. Sell the ring, put it toward the kids, the lease, or paying back the relatives who already sacrificed. The backlash came exactly the way you'd expect. It's her engagement ring, it's sentimental, she'll never get anywhere near the purchase price. All true, but here's his counter-argument. And it's a strong one. At some point, family money stops being helped through a crisis and starts being a subsidy for keeping a luxury asset that the people providing the money could never afford themselves. And there's one more detail that tightens the whole thing. They tried to break the lease, but the landlord refused unless he finds a replacement tenant in a very landlord-friendly state. So the expense is truly stuck. Now, is pushing someone to sell a sentimental possession over the line? Maybe pushing is the wrong verb, but asking. When you've lent someone your own money and they're wearing the payback on their finger, I land on not the asshole with respect for the other side. Family generosity is a gift, not a subscription. And gifts stop flowing when they start feeling like they're funding jewelry. What's your call? Is the ring sacred, or is it $60,000 with a sentiment problem? And the verdict, not the asshole with nuance.
Story number 3. Am I the asshole for telling my family I won't discuss my finances with them anymore? This story is about a boundary that sounds cold until you hear why it exists. The storyteller is a first-generation college student and a first-generation law student. The family was never well off growing up. The house went into foreclosure, and there was a period of homelessness. This person has been financially supporting themselves since they were 14 years old, put themselves through high school, college, law school. Nobody handed them anything. Now they're entering their final year of law school, and they just accepted a lucrative job offer for after graduation. Naturally, they shared the good news with the family, and that's when the questions started. How much did you save over the summer? How much will you be making? Do you need financial help with your last year? On the surface, supportive, right? Here's the pattern that changed the meaning. Years earlier, when a distracted driver totaled the storyteller's car shortly after law school began, the family's reaction was "thank goodness you're okay," followed by complete radio silence about actually helping. The support only materialized as questions about money once there was finally money to ask about. So the storyteller drew a line with their mother. "I'm not comfortable discussing my finances with the family anymore." The response: The mother broke down crying, saying she felt like a bad mom, and now relatives are piling on, calling the storyteller insensitive, saying the family is just trying to support you. Notice the switch. When the support would have cost them something, it was invisible. When the support costs nothing and potentially opens a channel to a high earner's finances, it's relentless. The storyteller isn't cutting anyone off, they explicitly said contact stays the same. One topic is simply off the table. That's not cruelty. That's a firewall built by someone who learned the hard way which direction the money questions flow. Verdict, not the asshole. Your salary is not the family's group project.
And the verdict, not the asshole.
Story number 4. My grandma keeps demanding I move back to her country. Am I wrong to refuse? Our last story is quieter, but it's about a kind of demand that millions of families make. Come back. The storyteller left their home country 15 years ago, a whole adult life built somewhere else. By their own account, they've given 100% to staying connected, supporting their parents, sometimes flying back as many as 6 times a year. 6 times a year. Across the world, and yet there's one family member who cannot accept it. Grandma. Every few years, she brings it up, return back. And here's what makes it heavier than a normal request. By the storyteller's description, this isn't a sweet old lady casually wishing aloud. It comes with layers of guilt and pressure, delivered with the weight of family means here. Each demand does the exact opposite of its goal. Every "you should come back" makes the storyteller less likely to even consider it. And that right there is the trap of guilt-based demands. They feel like love to the person applying them and like a cage to the person receiving them. Think about what's actually being asked. Abandon a life, a career, possibly a family of your own, built over 15 years, because a relative demands proximity as proof of loyalty. Love that requires you to shrink your life down to fit someone else's map of it isn't a duty. It's a demand wearing love's clothing. The storyteller keeps showing up, the visits, the support, the 6 flights a year. That is the relationship. What grandma wants isn't contact, it's control of the address. Verdict, not the asshole. You can love your family from a distance they didn't choose. That's their disappointment to grieve, not your debt to repay. And that's it for today's stories. If any of these hit close to home, the comment section is open and I read everything. See you in the next one.
And the verdict, not the asshole.
That's all for today. If you enjoyed these stories, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more. See you next time.